Good morning, evening, or afternoon, whichever one's going on for you at this current point in time. About a week and a half ago, not this last Sunday, but the Sunday before that, I was talking to one of my neighbors. He's in his like early mid 60s, and I was like, "Is there anything that bothers you about your apartment? I want to be handy, right? If I can, help the neighbors out, help people out." And he said, "My hose doesn't work." So he has to run his hose out the basement, out the back door, and then around the perimeter of the house. And his hoses leak and they're not long enough. Anyway, long story short, I changed out the hose bib for him. So here it is somewhere on the screen. And that is an FHT or a female hose thread end cap. So if for whatever reason his water main was to fail, the valve that leads to the outside fixture was to fail, and the fixture itself was to fail, that would be the fourth fail safe, which is the cap would be able to hold pressure until that valve, whichever one, didn't work, got replaced. So with that being said, I asked if there was anything else that he need. Oh, by the way, really quick, I did hold on to it. This thing 100% is older than I am. This is from Nipco. They make a damn good spigot or hose bib or faucet or whatever you want to call this. They use the old style felt washers instead of like the black rubber gaskets. But I'm telling you, new seal. And what happened was I tried to hit it with I don't know if you can see that, but I tried to hit it with a rotary to see if I could take that screw out. The handle fell apart. If this got a new stem and a new bonnet nut with a seal, because that thing is like disintegrating, falling apart. Again, this thing's probably like 60 years old. Um, a new bonnet seal and a new washer and a new handle and stem, this thing would go on to outlast me for 60 more years. So well done to Nipco for making this. And also, bless his old heart, he tried to put one of these on. These are fully plastic. This is a no-no where we are. It gets hot, cold. But because our winters get so cold and our summers get hot, this and rubber and plastic, they become super brittle and they just start cracking apart. And then the last thing you want to do is have to sit there cleaning and drilling out plastic threads. Plus it's a 3/4 inch to 3/4. What he needed was a 1/2 inch to 3/4. So anyway, that got taken care of. But I was asking him, is there anything else about your home or about your apartment that bothers you? He said the washer takes forever to fill, to dry. I have to play, I'm paraphrasing here, but he has to play DJ Hero in order to get the hot and cold because he's using one adapter. And I saw his washer, and you're gonna see it. It's like an updated Samsung like digital washer. There's no reason for this thing to be at the mercy of like the restrictions of a sink. There is some water damage, so no judgment here. It's not his fault. You got a landlord that doesn't fix anything unless it's on fire, bleeding, or about to sue. So I can't say anything about anything. But I did use Sharkbites and I did use PEX before y'all get angry. The main reason I went with Sharkbites is not because I didn't want to do PEX crimp rings or expansion. It was because if for whatever reason in the world the landlord said take all of that out, I could just Sharkbite it, take everything out and put it back to the way it was. To be clear, there's already Sharkbite PEX and there are already Sharkbite supplies that go to the sink. So because he doesn't have a hookup, that's what I decided to do. Because he's paying like 1,400-1,500 bucks in rent, and another tenant's paying the same thing, and they have a washer, and yet he doesn't because for some reason they clipped the washer and fed it to something else. I don't know what's going on there, but let's do it. The first thing they needed to get done was getting rid of this stupid splitter adapter. This thing was all beat up and just needed to go. So had to fight with it for a second because it was on there. But I wanted to measure out, make sure I had enough space, and the first thing was to get the new hoses on. All right, now we got the cold line hooked up, the hot line hooked up. We're gonna feed them down here. I'm gonna give them a good trace, and then we're gonna bore 2 holes. But I wanna make sure everything's lined up. So glad that this came up. And before you say, why don't you have the blue slashes on here? He said he bought the hot line and the blue line, but he can't find the cold line now. So if at any point, woo, I don't know if you heard that, but we got a thunderstorm. It was real bad. The line here, he can always change it out when he finds it, or if he wants to leave this one, it's perfectly fine. These are still new lines with new seals, so there's not a rush here. Ooh, that storm getting worse. Gonna bring out my laser level because we need to see exactly what's going on here. Now, as you can see, there is definitely some water damage in here. And the landlord, well, the landlord's not really too interested. But we do have some PEX lines running up. So that's where we're going to be attaching our reducer tee. It's going to go 1/2 inch. That trap's kind of in the way, but it's going to be trap inch or 1/2 inch behind the trap. We're going to run this down. I want them probably about 3 inches apart, and then we'll have them run somewhere here where they still reach from the outside, and then they'll be able to remove and add and change hoses as they need to. And if at any point the landlord says, hey, take all that out, well, I mean, it's still better than the people that are working for him now, but at least I can return it to how it is currently if they have an issue. But the main thing we're going here, obviously, given all the damage, without a budget for ripping all this out and fixing it, is going to be functionality. Not looking pretty, functional. I gotta yank this this one clamp here. This is, oh, actually, that's a screw. You love finding stuff just hanging down. You don't know where it's supposed to go, and they just keep adding stuff to it. You love to see it. But let's grab this anchor in the back. Woo! Whoa. Thought I cut this off. What the heck? Hold up. Okay. We got the Sharkbite hiding those caps. So, let me go grab my Pro Tool. Pro Tool. Okie dokie. So you got the hot side off. Alright, we're gonna need a 1/2 inch. I'm gonna bring that level in. Gonna keep our pipe right there. Oh man, this is in the way. But what can you do, right? This is a splitter tee with 1/2 inch, and 3/4 inch. With the 1/2 inch, they upgraded from 24 millimeter depth to 25, so mark out an inch on your pipe. For the 3/4 inch, it used to be 28, now it's 32 millimeter, or 1 1/8 quarter now is 1 1/4 inches. So that's what we're going to be marking when we cut up our pecs. Straightforward, right? Sorry if I'm in the way, but there's a tight spot. Cool. Now for the 1/2 inch, I'm going to measure out 6 inches of pecs. That's going to run up for the hot side and 3 inches for the cold side, since obviously it's lower. So makes sense. I'm thinking we go with 5 1/2 inches instead. So make your arrangements as necessary. Make your mark. Apologies if I'm in the way. There is no way to get you in any better position. I'm gonna put in a 90 here, 3/4 90. So 3/4 90. Whoa! Tight spot. Right there. Five inches. Cool. So from the difference, we need to cut in 1 1/4 inches. Whoa. Yeah, these valves are old, so there's gonna be a leak. So we're making this fast, but obviously all this is gonna get ripped out, so it's not a huge concern. Hey, how you doing, doggo? 3/4 inch clamp. What I like about the OD ones is you can open, you don't have to slide them first. So a lot of maneuver. All right, so my hole's gonna be right about here. Make a little bit of an indent. Just to kind of get that started. Now, if you look at the incline from where I started, it might look a little downward. It's because I have the tripod with the level slightly down, because my tripod is a bit taller than where the pipe is. So still looking, giving it the eye, but We're gonna make it as close as we possibly can, and then give it 2 inches above, and that's where the cold line is gonna do its thing as well. So because of the stupid way that they routed the PEX from below and from a side, for me to run it across, I'm gonna have to put the cold line slightly behind the hot line. So luckily, I squeezed in a little piece. The back piece of support for the cabinet is able to, this portion right here, kind of slightly flexes forward, so it does hold the straps forward. Still supporting everything, but sometimes you gotta improvise when everything is quite literally falling apart. Alrighty, let's get a pipe clamp or 2 onto that cold line. Whew. Alrighty, everything's coming together. Everything is coming together.
Malo va a ser la
Perdona que te dejé ciego. Era más que 1 pulgada o menos de 1 pulgada y mira cómo salió.
Si tú quieres como esas tallas,
Y con la gente que no sabe guiar ya. Now while I'm drilling out these pilot holes, of course if you have the option while you're using a hole saw to reach both sides of the material, pro tip here is to saw about halfway through the material on one side and then go around and finish the job on the other side. This prevents really bad tear out and horrible finishes that just don't look good. Not to mention, when it is plastic or anything that's non-metallic, you don't want any sharp pieces of wood just kind of abrading or kind of irritating that plastic. Again, if big trucks go by, if trains go by, if anything that vibrates the house or moves the house, with time, it's just going to keep irritating that pipe and you may notice a leak eventually. Again, not right away, but definitely something you want to avoid if you can take the 2 seconds to either ream it out with your finger or use a rotating sandband or something just to kind of clean up the holes. They'd be nice and smooth. Now here I'm going to be putting in one more stretch of 3/4 inch PEX, then I'm going to 90 it outward, put another small piece of PEX just for the connection, and then that's where the direct 3/4 inch threads are going to go from the washing machine line straight to those threads. Now if you're not entirely sure, you need to make sure you're using straight threads or tapered threads. So check with the hoses that are connected to your washer. The last thing you want to do is buy the wrong ones and then they're out of stock and you're sitting there kind of up in the air. So MPTs are tapered, MIPs are sometimes straight. I'm using straight threads here. You may not have the same thing, so be on the lookout. Now here I'm connecting the lines directly to the threads. You want to make sure you do that so you're not spinning the Sharkbites on the pipe. Not that it's going to do anything because Sharkbites do spin, but if you can avoid those teeth digging further into the PEX if they don't need to unnecessarily, then skip that part. Make sure they're nice and tight, and if you don't squish that gasket down as much as it needs to be, you're going to get leaks during that swivel point on the back of the head. You don't want that to be the case. So make sure it's nice and tight, and Sharkbite says no PTFE and no thread sealant. They want a nice natural connection from just pressure and a gasket, so that's what it's going to get. And again, I'm pointing to the back of that head. That's where the water is going to come spraying out if you don't make that connection correctly. Sound good?
Eso se tarda así para el agua. Ok. Así es el precio normal. Eso que tenía aire.
Aire.